What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here of the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm the Side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Side Guys, is Tad the Side. And Tad, 43 days away from kickoff. It's just
so
getting
close
here sooner and sooner. And that's the whole reason why we've dived headfirst into all this fantasy content, because the NFL season is coming that much closer. That means all your fantasy drafts are coming that much sooner as well. So we want to make sure that all of you that are listening, all of you that are watching us on YouTube as well, are very much prepared as you head into your various drafts, aware about who to draft, who to avoid, figuring all of that stuff out to make sure that you guys are winning titles. Because we've said this before, we will continue to say it all season long. Me and Tad, our main goal is to win you guys championships, win you guys titles, whether it's one of the trophy belts that they have, or whether a lot of people are going into like the rings now. So it's like getting you a ring, or just a standard trophy.
I was about to say, should I go grab my trophy right now? Because the trophy is still sitting in my closet.
No, you can grab it for the next episode.
Okay.
But yeah, even some people do standard trophies as well. So whatever it is that you are fighting for in your respective leagues, we want to make sure that you are the one last man standing, reigning in your league, various leagues, whatever you're playing in. So yeah, that's why me and Tad are here, to make sure you are prepared to win all your various leagues.
And look, today's episode is going to be an interesting one, because this position that we are going to talk about is it's been a fantasy. I don't want to say death field. That feels a little harsh, but it's close to it.
It's very interesting. And we'll throw up the banner here, because no way to delay it here, but it's just like, oh, you're gonna take it off as I throw it.
There we go.
Of course, bigger. Yeah, of course. There. We're gonna talk about tight ends.
Professional podcast, everybody.
There you go. Exactly. So yeah, we're going to talk about tight ends in today's episode. And if you haven't caught any of our previous episodes, we have been diving into every fantasy position so far. So we've done quarterbacks, we have done running backs, and we have done wide receivers as well. So make sure you check out those episodes. But as always, finish listening to this episode, then go back and listen to those episodes.
Yeah, there we go. We can tell. We can tell how long you've been looking or listening or watching. So
sure,
we're on to you.
And for the most part, you can listen to us out of order. It's not like a sequential thing. It's not like, Secret Invasion, where you have to start with episode 1 and then finish with episode 6.
Do not bring that up.
I'm not going to bring that up. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet.
2 a.m. for that finale. I was so mad.
I haven't even seen it yet, so of course we're not going to bring it up. I'm just talking about the fact that it's just like you don't have to listen or watch it sequentially. You could jump around. So yeah, finish listening to this and then go back and listen to those previous episodes, because we dive into all of those. We've dropped all of our rankings for all those various episodes as well. So yeah, pretty soon we'll be dropping our tight end rankings as well as our positional rankings for kickers and defenses too. So we'll do that, make sure for sure. But yeah, you can see the ticker down below.
We need to have Chauncey on here just so I can bitch about Secret Invasion.
He'll probably have us on to talk about it. 100%
yeah, no,
sure
he better, because I am furious.
But yeah, as always, we're going to tease it a little bit earlier here. But yeah, you see the ticker down below. You can see all of our rankings on social media, as well as all of our episodes they'll be dropping. You can follow us on Twitter. You got me at @OverTheSide23, Tad the Side 94. You got the show handle at The Side Guys. And of course on Instagram. That's where we're dropping our episodes as well as our rankings on Instagram as well at The Side Guys there. So Tad, let's not put it off any longer. Let's get into today's episode. We're going to start it off the way that we've done in the previous episodes. We're going to jump into our rankings, but we're not going to go into our full rankings like we've done in previous years. We're only going to talk about the top guy, the head guy, the main guy at the position. And this year it's pretty much the same as I think past, probably say 6 years, I'd like to say. I think it's just he's clear cut the number one guy. I don't think that's ever changed. And
all right. This is where we nail it. Are you ready?
It's not gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
With your delay, it's not gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
I don't think so.
Let's try it.
Okay.
All right. On 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Travis Kelce. Why did
See, I
That
told
was
you
your
with the
fault.
delay,
No,
it's
that was
never
your
going to be
fault.
right.
That was your
No,
fault. You dragged
no.
it out. That was absolutely your fault. Fine. Why do we like Travis Kelce, bastard?
Tad will get into how he does his rankings, obviously, once he talks about Travis Kelce a little bit. But, I go with the standard approach of going with pre-draft rankings as far as, like, these are guys that are going to be targeted earlier as opposed to later. And, like I talked about, for the past, 5 to 6 years, maybe even a little longer than that, Travis Kelce has been the number one fantasy tight end because, in that offense, like, especially now that Tyreek Hill has been traded away to Miami the past season, like, he is the main go-to guy for Patrick Mahomes. Like, I know we saw Patrick Mahomes spread the ball around a little bit more, with Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling and, Kadarius Toney when he was acquired and a little bit of Sky Moore. But, still, whenever he really needs a guy to come up with a clutch catch, to move the ball down the field, who needs a really big reception to move the offense down the field, it's always going to be Travis Kelce. Tad, if you look at his stats from last year, he was one of 4 tight ends with over 100 targets, so pretty good there, right? He was the only tight end with over 100 receptions.
That shocked me.
Yeah, there's a couple that are close. I think T.J. Hockenson was close, but yeah, he is the only one with 100 receptions. He is the only tight end with 1,000 receiving yards. Once again, some guys came close with 900, but yeah, he was the only one that crossed the 4-digit mark. He was one of 2 tight ends to finish with double-digit touchdowns. Quick pop quiz here, Tad. Do you know the other tight end finished double-digit touchdowns?
Man, I want to say Dallas Goedert.
No.
Dallas
Goedert.
Man.
It was my boy George Kittle. He finished with career high 11 touchdowns. So,
Damn
yeah.
it.
And this is the crazy one here, Tad. And this is why I say, like, he is the first guy you take. Like, he is in a tier all by himself at the tight end position. He finished with 100 more fantasy points than the guy that came in second place. He had 316.3 fantasy points in PPR leagues, and the second guy came in with 215.4 fantasy points. That was TJ Hockenson. And just that shows you just last year, like I said, with Tyreek Hill gone, he is just that much more involved in the offense. It is clear that in the passing offense, he is the first guy to look at in the progression. Then it goes on to everybody else. So, yeah, it's going to continue to stay that way. He's healthy. That's the biggest thing. Like, maybe I jinxed that. I'm going to knock on wood here to say that he's probably going to be healthy this year as well. But that's another factor as to why he's the clear-cut number one option as well, is because he stays healthy and he's very, very productive. So, Tad, got anything else to add there? Because I feel like it's pretty succinct there.
With drafting Travis Kelce, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is you're not really drafting a tight end. And by that, I mean, you're drafting a wide receiver number 1. Because he puts up those type of numbers. And like you said, it's like go back and listen to our wide receiver episode for how to do this correctly. But if you are going to pursue Travis Kelce in the first round, which let's be real, Travis Kelce's not lasting past the first round in 95% of drafts.
Yeah, safe to say that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you draft him, I'm not going to say that's a bad strategy, but if you draft well with wide receivers and running backs on top of drafting Kelce, all of a sudden you are a team to beat because you just locked down one of the hardest positions in fantasy football to lock down. So yes, I could throw a million stats at your way, but here's the thing: is Travis Kelce's dependable, and Kansas City still does not have a super dependable weapon other than him in the passing game. So I think that if you draft Kelce and you draft well, elsewhere, oh my God, your team's a super team. So, but that's the whole problem is, do you go for, this is the question we're going to get on social media is, do I go for Travis Kelce because he's a tight end? I say yes, if you are confident in your drafting abilities later on. So that's the thing is, can you hit on those sleepers? Because if you draft Kelce and you hit on the sleepers, you're golden.
Yes, and we'll definitely get into some of the sleepers as well, and then we're going to get into some busts as well at the position. But I think the big thing that I want to close this out before we move on to those sleepers and busts, Tad, is that we've talked about this. It's the consistency. And at this specific position, at the tight end position, it's like it's always fluctuating as far as who is in the top 5, who is in the top 10. So it's like, you can sort of find a guy a little bit later, but you just don't know. It's always been different every single year as far as who is those guys that are finishing in the top 10, top 12, what have you. But if you can get the guy that's consistently going to be in the top, I'd probably say definitely top 2, because there was a couple of years where Mark Andrews ended up finishing at tight end 1. But still, just the fact that you get to depend on Travis Kelce. Mark Andrews.
Oh, I thought you said Anderson.
No, Mark Andrews out of
Damn
Baltimore.
it. Damn it.
But just the biggest thing is just, like I said, you could depend on him every single week, every single season, because he is healthy and he's just so productive in that offense. And so, yeah, it's not so much of a risk then, because that's one of the biggest things that you want to do in fantasy football, avoid the risk. And if you could get a guy who's so dependable every single week, that's, safe pick to take in the first round.
Well, and not only dependable every week at his position, but look at the quarterback position where Patrick Mahomes has barely missed a game since he's been named the chief starter. And, let's assume worst case scenario, Mahomes has and not that I'm hoping this happens, but Mahomes has a Tom Brady ACL situation in week 1. Amir, do you know who the Chiefs backup is now that Chad Henne retired?
That's right. Chad Henne retired. So
you walked off in the sunset.
Is, I want to say Chase McDaniel?
No, it's a guy you're pretty familiar with.
A guy I'm pretty familiar with? Is it Nick Mullins?
Nope. That would actually be a good backup, though. That's not a bad call.
Yeah, I don't know then.
Blaine Gabbert.
Fantastic.
So not bad, but man, I mean, you can attest to this. That man loves himself some tight ends.
It's true. Very true.
So, even if Mahomes goes down, that, like you said, that consistency of just his consistency of dependability is that he will be good no matter who's at quarterback. But Mahomes also has proven that he's probably not going to go down unless something catastrophic happens. Yeah. So, Travis Kelce, easily number 1 tight end. Number 1 tight end, what college, Amir?
Oh, this one's easy. Cincinnati.
Damn it.
Go Bearcats.
Damn it. Who was his quarterback?
That one, I have no idea.
I don't know either. I believe it was I believe it was Tony Pike. I could be totally wrong about it.
I have no idea.
Tony Pike drafted by?
I don't know. Indianapolis?
Carolina. Come on.
Oh. Yeah, I never would have known that. So we talk about Travis Kelce and his consistency, right? But let's talk about tight ends that were just not as high on because they probably lack that consistency. So let's get into some tight end buzz here, Tad. So who's a tight end that you're just not particular liking as we head into the 2023 season? A guy that you're probably not going to draft.
So I went for like a 2-for-1 special here because I'm going to use this guy's name to bring down another player. I'm going to be a real hater here.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So first off, don't trust Noah Fant. We've talked about this on the podcast before. He's done. It's purely, speculation of like, he looks really good. Maybe he'll be good. And it's just like, no, we're done with that. Noah Fant is a bust. He's never eclipsed 500 yards in his career. But on top of that, I'm calling it Noah Fant syndrome. And you know who I think has Noah Fant syndrome? It's Dawson Knox in Buffalo. I think this is a tight end that people are going to look at. And by people, I mean very casual fantasy fans, because any legitimate fantasy researcher knows that this guy doesn't have it. Like he looks the part. He, is a good tight end, but fantasy wise, production wise, he just doesn't have it. So let's get the elephant out of the room right away. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end at Utah that Buffalo just drafted, he's going to eat into Knox's production. So that's an issue right off the bat. Add on to this fact that, look, let's just face facts. This offense doesn't like tight ends. Dawson Knox has not succeeded in this offense whatsoever. And it's super frustrating when you are in a successful offense and they just don't like a certain position, whether it be running back, whether it be tight end. And unfortunately for Dable's offense, or not Dable, sorry, he left 2 years ago with Buffalo's offense. It's just, but that was the thing when Dable left, I was like, okay, maybe now Dawson Knox is the guy to, benefit from Dable leaving. No. They clearly kept the same offensive system where they look his way occasionally in the red zone, but he's just never going to do that. So he being Dawson Knox has never gone for over 600 yards in his career. And this stat shocked me, Amar. He's never had over 50 catches in his career.
That doesn't surprise me as much because he's always been viewed as a touchdown-dependent option. I think we saw that one season that he had. I think it might have been 2, maybe 3 seasons ago, where just Josh Allen was looking his way consistently. He scored like what I think 8 or 9 touchdowns, and all of a sudden people were on the Dawson Knox bandwagon. But yeah, I think it's very much like you're laying out. It's just not a position that they're addressing as much in the offense. They very much rely on Stephon Diggs, obviously, and Gabe Davis, who we hope, and Isaiah McKenzie, and some of those guys. And so it's just like, yeah, in the red zone, yeah, he could be a good target there. But just, yeah, if he's not scoring touchdowns, it's very hard to trust Dawson
He's
Knox.
worthless. Absolutely. So that, gets me to my general point of like, I think a lot of people, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but I think a fair amount of people will be drafting Knox as a tight end 1 of like, oh, I think this is a sleeper. Like they think they're being smart here, and don't do it, because it's just, it's your fun. It's that trap you're falling for, where you think you're getting a sleeper, but in reality, you're actually getting this year's biggest bust. Especially, like I said, Dalton Kincaid. I'm really, really worried about him eating into production. So Dawson Knox, streaming option, 100%. Your tight end's on a bye week. You need somebody. It depends on the matchup. Sure, Dawson Knox is worth a look, but in terms of like, oh, I can depend on this guy, absolutely not. Stay away from him.
Yeah, I think I very much view Dawson Knox as like your backup tight end option if you decide to go with twin tight ends. But yeah, it's not a guy that I want in my starting lineup week in and week out, because it's too hard to trust him week in and week out. And
he's gonna get 2 points one week, 8 points the next, and that's the whole thing. Is like, if his ceiling is 8 points, is he even worth rostering at that point? Like I said, like I think just take that gamble, hope he's on the waiver wire when you really need him.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Dawson Knox is a good pick there. I'm actually going to go with a little bit of a surprise pick, because he actually saw this and you were a little surprised that I picked this guy as well. And this is a name that we just brought up when we were talking about Travis Kelce, as he was one of the only other tight ends to score double-digit touchdowns, and that's George Kittle. At a bust here.
Whoa. Wait. Time out. Where do you live?
I know. I always, traditionally, I very
answer
much
the question. Where do you live?
I live in the Bay Area, so.
Okay, so you live in the Bay Area. Who's your favorite team?
The San Francisco 49ers.
Who's their best player?
Arguably, it could be Christian McCaffrey.
You're goddamn wrong. It's George Kittle. What is wrong with you? But anyway, all right, convince me. This is, you know what? I'm a teacher. This is a pop quiz. Convince me that George Kittle is going to be a bust.
So, yes, on this podcast, I've definitely been, the victim of playing the Homer card a lot, favoring a lot of my own guys.
I think we both have, to be fair, but
no, it's true. It's very true. But I think in this case, I'm not hating George Kittle. Like, I'm not saying don't draft this guy. I think it's more of just like we've talked about in previous podcast episodes. It's just that where he's being drafted, I think it's just being a little bit too early, because he's being in some drafts that I'm seeing him being going as the second tight end off the board. And I feel like that may be a little bit high. I think I'm seeing it the second. Also, I'm seeing as the third tight end off the board, which is, probably what's going to happen in your fantasy draft. But I think for me, it's just a little bit of an overreach, because the biggest thing that I worry about is that 7 of his 11 career high touchdowns that he had last year came in the final 4 weeks of the season. He also averaged 21.6 fantasy points. So you look at that, you're like, okay, he's playing with Brock Purdy during that time. So it's like he's looking to be the starter as we head into the 2023 season. Like, we're at training camp. There's lots of talk about possibly it's going to be Brock Purdy, possibly going to be Trey Lance. Most likely it's going to be Brock Purdy, but just a lot of optimism that connection between Brock Purdy and George Kittle will continue into the next season. And I'm like, yeah, that is a possibility, but I just don't know which Brock Purdy we're going to get. Are we going to get that guy that we saw at the end of last year? Or are we going to get a guy that's now a lot of defenses understand is the starter? They're going to be more prepared for him, so they're going to be able to game plan for him. So he may not be as sharp as he was toward the end of this last season. And then Tad, like I said, through the final 4 weeks of the season, George Kittle was red hot. He was the tight end that you wanted to own. But through the other 11 games that he played in, Tad, this is where I see the drop-off, and this is what worries me about people overdrafting him then, is that he scored 4 total touchdowns in that span, and he averaged half the fantasy points per game production, only 10.4 fantasy points per game. And so that worries me, because like we talked about, we're looking for consistency. And so if you see majority of the season, you're drafting this guy as like, possibly your 3rd round pick, maybe 4th round pick, depending on how your draft goes, and you're getting only like about, 10 points per game from your number one starting position there, that's what worries me as far as like, I think I could wait a little bit longer, address other positions, and maybe take a little bit more of a gamble, go with 2 tight ends a little bit later that I'm willing to take a little bit more of a risk on, like you talked about, pairing up like a Dawson Knox with somebody else, taking Dallas Goedert, who I will have a little bit more optimism on. So I think that's why I'm just a little bit more worried that he's going to be overdrafted as far as where his ADP is. And then also you have to look at the offense that now we talked about this in a running back episode. Christian McCaffrey is our running back number 1, and he's going to get featured a lot in this offense because he's just a perfect fit for that offense. So you look at him. They obviously got Deebo Samuel. They got Brandon Ayuk, who had a sensational season last year as well. So he's going to continue to grow. So you got other pieces of this offense, and George Kittle loves to block, and they like to run the ball. So, I mean, he's not going to run as many routes as he can in this offense to be that productive as well. So it just worries me that him going that high, he's not going to give you that level of production that you're hoping for from a guy like a Travis Kelce. They'll go higher than him. Maybe Mark Andrews will go higher than him. Potentially T.J. Hockenson might go a little bit higher than him too, depending on who you're playing with, right? But just, I think just the biggest thing for me is just like, it's the value that we're seeing, right? So if you're drafting him a little bit later, I could probably see it there, but just when it comes to fantasy football, you want that consistency. And with George Kittle, it's just hard to trust that in the San Francisco offense.
Here's where I struggle. So first off, I give you a B. Okay. I give you a B. You kind of convinced me. Here's where I'm struggling though, is like, it's such a, and this is the word I was struggling to find at the beginning of the episode, is the tight end position is such a graveyard. That is true. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Is it's such a graveyard of a position when you're looking at me like he only averaged 10 points per game. I'm like, shit, I'd go for 10 points per game for my tight end. Like, all right, without a touchdown too. Like, all right, like that's a lot of usage there. So sure, I think the key point you had though was where you drafting him.
Yes.
Because if I get him in the 3rd or 4th round, he's giving me 10 points a game, I am happy. I'm sitting there like, all right, that was a good draft pick. I'm happy with that. But if I'm drafting him in the 2nd or, God forbid, the 1st round, and he's only giving me 10 points a game at tight end, because, again, that's where, the difference between Kittle and Kelce is.
Yes.
Is with Kelce, if he's giving me 10 points a game, I'm pissed because I drafted you in the 1st round. I'm expecting at least 15 to 20, like somewhere in that range on a pretty consistent basis.
Yep.
But the whole thing is, again, if I get him being Kittle in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round, and he's averaging me 10 points at the tight end position, I'm pretty happy. But if I'm drafting him in the 1st round, like what you said, some people might do, that's dangerous. Is don't expect Kittle to be Kelce where he can carry your team. If you draft Kittle as your tight end 1, that's a good pick. But then it's not like what I was talking about earlier where, if you take some good sleepers here and there, your team's set. No, he's not consistent enough to do that. So I kind of see where you're coming from, where it's draft Kittle with the right expectations.
Yes.
Is be sure, especially because like I've said this multiple times on the podcast, I am part of an auction draft league. If anyone is willing to go over $40 for Kittle, I think that's overpaying. I'm not paying over 40 for him. So, but I think I'm willing to bet he will go for over 40 just on name recognition.
Yeah, and the season that he had last year, like I said, scoring a career high 11 touchdowns, and
but like you said, a lot of that production came in later.
Exactly.
So it's just, I think he's a safe bet to do well for you at tight end, but I don't think he's a tight end that can carry your team like Kelce can.
Yeah, and I think that's what people may draft him with the expectation happening. And so that's why it's like I'm labeling him a bust, quote unquote. I'm still drafting him, but just like I'm looking at where he is and what other players are available at the running back position, possibly the quarterback position, the wide receiver position, whatever. And I'm sort of doing the value base as far as like, is this a guy that I could depend on here versus like somebody else who I may not get, sort of thing. So yeah. Arguably, I mean, I'll continue to say this. George Kittle is the best tight end in the game. But when it comes to fantasy football, that is definitely Travis Kelce.
It's just the system doesn't work in his favor either with fantasy football numbers. Like, we're not saying he's going to be bad this year. We're just saying he's not going to be the player that carries your team that some people are expecting.
Exactly.
Kevin McCormick, if you're listening to this, go ahead and grab him, buddy. That's my friend of a 49ers fan. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All All right, so let's get to the other side like we like to do. You know, we start with the bad, but let's do it with the good now here. Let's talk about a guy that we're sort of like maybe flying under the radar that maybe not a lot of people are thinking about at the tight end position that could be a potential like, savior for your fantasy team if you start to struggle a little bit, or just a guy that, we like to label as sleepers.
So, I'm going to do the thing. Ready?
Let's hear it.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Right again, I guess. Yeah.
Did they ride it in the first place? I don't think they ever. I don't even think they were
riding, but just like the horse was riding backwards, and they were running to the other side. I
think they mounted the horse, and it bucked them right off. Like that's what happened. Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, I'm telling you, people, I'm a Broncos believer. So not only are a lot of the receivers, fancy prospects to look out for, but I'm taking Greg Dulcich. Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah. You almost had it. You had it before we started.
Out of what school?
Greg Dulcich out of good school of our network here. That's UCLA.
Yeah, good job. See, notice how that one I wasn't upset about. So Greg Dulcich, excuse me.
There you go.
I think that this guy is the best sleeper of the year because he's currently drafted. I looked this up. His ADP is 12th round.
12th round or 12th at the position?
12th round.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
right. That's a pretty good ADP, which means like this is a guy that, honest to God, like if you don't trust my word here that he's a good sleeper, you could just let him probably go undrafted and just keep an eye on him on waivers as well. So if you want to do that, that's the way to go. But I'm telling you, if you are the type of player that takes a backup tight end, that's an interesting podcast topic, by the way. Should you take a backup tight end? Because I waver on that. But either way, he is draftable in my opinion because when he was healthy, he was only healthy for about 10 games for the Denver Broncos last year. He saw 80% of the snaps last year. 80% when he was healthy. So there's no worry about competition. Oh, is he going to see, is some guy going to come up behind him and steal the job? No, he is the guy here. And another important thing to note is he was tied for first in targets on the team with Jerry Jeudy last year. So like they look his way in this offense, and that wasn't even Sean Payton's offense. And speaking of Sean Payton, he had 6 tight ends finish in the top 10 over the last decade in his offense. So not only were they initially looking at Dulcich.
There you go.
There we go. All right, how about that? Not only were they looking at Dulcich's way just last year, but now they have an offense that is specifically targeted towards the tight end with Russell Wilson, with a coach that knows how to make the most of a quarterback, especially a quarterback that's a little bit mobile and knows how to make the most out of the pocket. So I think that Dulcich, I don't think he's going to blow anyone away with his numbers, but do not be surprised if he ends up as a top 10 tight end. This is a guy that you can take either, like I said, on the waivers or in the very, very late rounds of the draft that could end up being a mainstay of your roster.
Yeah, I very much like Dulcich as well, especially in that offense, like you said, with Sean Payton. The only thing that could sort of like worry me as far as Dulcich and the whole tight end position is that Sean Payton sometimes likes to use multiple tight ends. So it's like, yes, he'll have a primary tight end. And so hopefully there's definitely going to be Greg Dulcich here. But I've also talked about when we did our deep dive on Sean Payton, I talked about Albert Okwuegbunam, and that he sort of fits that same mold as Jimmy Graham during his prime, as far as like a make and build and that sort of athleticism. If anything, Albert O is a little bit faster, a little bit more athletic compared to Jimmy Graham at that time when they were both in their prime there. So it's a possibility that maybe just Nathaniel Hackett just didn't see a way to use Albert O in the offense last year. That's why
Nathaniel Hackett can see.
So yeah, okay, that's a separate issue too. But just like the fact that just
is the game clock included on that?
So he wasn't able to utilize Albert O probably the way that a lot of people wanted, because I had him as a breakout last year. I really thought he was going to be a good tight end, but just unfortunately he barely saw the field. He was hurt a little bit, but just overall, it didn't seem like it was a match with that offense. Now you go into a different offense here with Sean Payton. Like you said, it's a little bit more friendly with the tight end in the offense, you could possibly see that Albert O could be involved a little bit more, and we could see a little bit of some split time between him and Dulcich. But yeah, everything I saw from Dulcich last year, I think he's very much a guy that can be dependable if he's given enough opportunities, and I think he can have those opportunities because in Seattle, Russell Wilson loved throwing to the tight end. Just obviously last year was just a complete anomaly where it's just like this offense did absolutely
speaking
nothing.
of Jimmy Graham, but no, I agree with what you're saying. This is why preseason matters. Is I know they cut a preseason game, and so people are like, it doesn't matter anymore. No, it is very important to keep track of who is getting the most tight end one snaps, because you're absolutely correct. Now, I mean, this is what makes a sleeper is I'm rolling the dice on Dulcich is going to be the guy that wins out this battle, but there's absolutely a battle happening at that position. And if Albert O gets it, then fuck it. I'll switch to Albert O. I have no loyalty to this team. So absolutely. One of them is a great tight end sleeper. It's just right now I'm rolling the dice on Dulcich, but if Albert O wins out that position battle, 100% go with him. I don't care.
Yeah, I think
I care about your team. Not yours. Not yours, our viewers.
Not mine. Yeah, exactly. Of course not.
Especially not Alfred's.
But I think we could both say in agreement here that we both like the tight end position in Denver if everything goes right with Sean Payton, which I think we're pretty much in saying that I think it will. But yeah, whether that's Dulcich, whether that's Albert O, whether it's some other mystery tight end that suddenly comes out of nowhere, I think
would that be? That'd be awesome.
That'd be pretty insane. But yeah, so I do like Dulcich. If it's Albert O, I very much like him as well in the offense. So just like Tad said, well, let's see how preseason goes. Let's see how training camp is going, because that is underway right now as well. So yeah, we'll see how this all plays out. Who's getting more reps with the number one team there, and that'll sort of give you an idea as far as like who you could take a late round flyer on, or like Tad said, let them both go, because Alvaro is definitely going undrafted. Nobody's drafting that guy, but Greg Dulcich possibly will go undrafted as well. Maybe. So these are guys that you add to your priority waiver list as far as like watch list is like as soon as they start going, you want to add these guys. So those are guys you can sort of keep on that radar for sure.
It's like the Godzilla scene from the first Godzilla movie where it's like, let them fight.
Yeah.
Like, just let them fight. Let's see who wins out. And it's just like, okay, you're my dude.
Exactly.
Which is why you don't draft in early August. Yes, psychos.
It's true. So I'm going to get to my tight end sleeper here. And he had a pretty impressive season last year, sort of like a quote unquote breakout. That's why I'm sort of picking him to sort of break out a little bit better.
Jelani Woods.
I still got optimism for Jelani Woods, especially now with the young quarterback.
I'm not gonna lie, he was almost my pick for sleeper this year.
I like me some Jelani Woods. I'm sticking with that one, but no, I'm going in a different direction here. I'm going to go to New Orleans Saints. I'm going to go with Jawan Johnson, the tight end, out of which college, Dad?
Oh Jesus, Houston.
No, not Houston. Pac-12.
Pac-12. It's not USC. I would know if it was USC. Colorado? No.
Nope.
Fuck.
University of Oregon.
Damn it!
University of Oregon. Yeah, I had no idea. That's why
I had really. Wow.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's why I thought I'd ask you, because I figured you would.
What round? Wait, hold on. I'm gonna look this up. Yeah. All right. You give your case. I'm gonna look. Wow.
But yeah, so Johnson enters his fourth season in the NFL, and honestly, Tad, every single season he's been in the NFL, he's gotten more involved in the offense. So you look at his targets from his rookie year up until last year, he had 10 targets, then it went to 22.
You cheated. He started his collegiate career at Penn State. That is a cheat.
It's where he finishes, not where he started.
Oh, shut up.
But anyway, so his target.
Oh, wow, he was undrafted too? Jesus.
Yeah, so his targets started from 10 in his rookie year, then he got to 22, and then he had 65 last season, and then he was also third on the team in targets last season as well. And Ted, he led the team with receiving touchdowns with 7. So, I mean, he was very much involved in this offense, especially as a touchdown-dependent sort of option there. But heading into 2023, I think the big thing that I wanted to talk about here is just that he should have more dependability, more consistency at the quarterback position with Derek Carr under center now. Like, I mean, that's the big reason why the New Orleans Saints went after this guy, is because he stays healthy, he's very durable, and he's a guy that you could depend on week in and week out. So I think they got that guy after all the best they had with Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston and Ian Book for a little bit too. Like, I mean, all those
Taysom Hill
for a little bit too. Yeah, of course. So with Derek Carr under center, I very much like Johnson's optimism heading into 2023. Another big thing, Tad, is just that I don't know if I trust as much the receiving options outside of Chris Olave. Like, I mean, we talked about Michael Thomas. Like, he hasn't returned to form since 2019. He hasn't even returned to the field, really.
I was about to say, he hasn't returned to anything in the last 3 years.
So it's like still a very
Alvin Kamara killed a guy.
Yeah, practically. So I mean, it's just like Brick killed a guy. It's kind of like that.
Where did he get a grenade?
So I mean, it's just like I don't know how much I can trust the other options in New Orleans there besides Chris Olave. But even that, it's like if he's the only option, I wonder if defenses going to start targeting him a little bit more as far as coverages go, and that could sort of leave things open for Johnson. Because Michael Thomas, like I said, huge question mark. Who knows what we're going to get from him? Alvin Kamara, like you said, it still hasn't been suspended by the NFL. There's still a possibility, but regardless of that,
we talked about this in the running back episode. Even if he's not suspended, his effectiveness has gone like it's nosedived in the last couple years.
Exactly. He's not being utilized in the passing offense as much as he has been in previous years. And
plus, you got Kendre Miller to look out for.
I do like me some Kendre Miller.
Yeah, you do.
There.
Yeah, you do.
So yeah, Alvin Kamara is just not that dependable option that he once was. You look at the veteran receivers that they have: Brian Edwards, Traquan Smith, Rashid Shaheed. He's emerged last year, but just like
he did, he was actually pretty good.
But those are guys that I'm not going to consistently depend on week in and week out. It's like you're going to get that flash in the pan. It's like this guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. So it's just like I don't know if I can depend on those guys. And the last thing, rookie A.T. Perry, it's like I don't know what we can expect from him, but he sort of falls into that last category of just like, yeah, he may come in and flash every so often, but he's not going to be a guy that's week in and week out. He's going to be a dependable guy. So that sort of leaves things open for Juwan Johnson, who's been familiar with this offense for 3 seasons now. He's heading into a big season here. Like I said, dependability at the quarterback position, but once again, this is not a guy that's going to be a starter for you. He's very much that sleeper sort of category where it's like you're going to draft him to be on your bench, possibly, depending on your league. He may go undrafted as well, but he's the perfect guy that you want to pair up with another tight end. So it's like you look at a guy like maybe you take Cole Kmet, who just signed a huge extension with the Chicago Bears. So, I mean, you pair him up with him. You can pair him up with possibly like a Dalton Schultz from Houston. So you have these guys that's like most likely they should be good with their teams, but just in case they start to falter, then you have a backup in Juwan Johnson who could be a sleeper streaming option for you. So you can sort of rotate between the 2 tight ends as you go throughout the season. Instead of depending on one guy, now you have 2 guys that can sort of like rotate based on the matchups there. So Juwan Johnson, as far as like just his involvement in the offense, I like it. And I think with the touchdown dependency as well, like I think he's going to be involved heavily there. He's going to be a guy that, like I said, you target late, he could be a league winner for you possibly.
Yeah, I like this pick as a sleeper depending on your fantasy expertise. And what I mean by that is he's a good sleeper for very casual fantasy football fans, but anybody that takes fantasy football as seriously as we do, he's not really a sleeper, right? Because he finished almost top 5 last year. So like people, if you're paying attention, he's a good tight end, and you know that. But this is why I like it as a sleeper pick is because I promise you, half the league I'm in right now, the one I care about the most with all my college friends, half of them don't even know Johnson's name. Yep. And so that's the whole thing. Is like it's how close are you paying attention? So if you recognize his value, 100% you're going to benefit from this. So yes, in a way, it's a weird dichotomy, right? Of like he is a very good sleeper, but he shouldn't be. Where it's like he's proven time and time again that he is dependable. So why is he still a sleeper? He shouldn't be, but you're absolutely right. He's going undervalued. So I absolutely love this pick, especially because, like you said, they're the flashier picks to go for, and this guy is going to be available in later rounds, and he honestly could end up being the tight end that is in your starting roster come championship week. That is how dependable he is. So yeah, good pick, buddy. Love it. And another thing to say too is, and keep in mind, who is one of the biggest Raider stars of the last decade? Darren Waller, right? And that came from Derek Carr's love of Darren Waller. Now you could argue that's Darren Waller being so good, but I would argue that's Derek Carr's love of using the tight end, and the fact that Carr went through so many systems, but Waller was still that consistent. Shows me that, okay, that wasn't a system thing. That wasn't like, oh, this system loves the tight ends. No, I think just Derek Carr loves tight ends. And so that will be another thing to keep in mind as, like you said, New Orleans has finally more consistency at quarterback. So, yeah, Juwan Johnson, honestly, and hopefully none of my friends are listening to this, might be my tight end pick of like, because tight end is always one of those positions I try to put off as long as possible. And Jawan Johnson's a great little like streamer option to fit in there towards the later rounds.
Yeah, and I know there might be some people thinking, well, wait, the Saints just re-signed Jimmy Graham. So it's like, is he going to be involved in the offense? No, I'm sorry. He's just not the same Jimmy Graham we're used to seeing in New Orleans. Like prime Jimmy Graham in New Orleans, like that's a guy that you need to be worried about.
I feel
this
like that
Jimmy
was
Graham,
almost a ceremonial signing.
That's what a lot of people are expecting. But I don't think it's a ceremonial signing. I think he's going to play the full year, but just
he will. But like I said, it's more symbolic. Symbolic is the better
symbolic's
word.
A better word. Symbolic's a way better word. So yeah, I don't think he's going to be very involved in the offense. A lot of people may be worried about Foster Moreau, who played in Las Vegas with Derek Carr, and he came over to the New Orleans Saints. But I mean, I think Foster Moreau had maybe one good season after Darren Waller sort of got hurt, and one good game, before Darren Waller got hurt.
There we go.
But yeah, he wasn't anywhere consistent at offense. So very much, I think Jawan Johnson is the most talented tight end in this group, and he'll be the starter, and he'll be the most involved. And yeah, Derek Carr will look his way a ton for sure this upcoming season. So,
Murr, are you getting a little hot in here?
It is a little bit toasty here in the
I'm
Bay
getting
Area.
a little, I'm sweating a little bit. It's about 105 degrees in Dallas right now. So,
fun times.
Oh yeah, you know what that means?
Yeah, I think I do.
It's time for hot takes, buddy. Let's do it.
100%.
All right, you go first. I go first. Who wants to go first?
You can take it, man.
All right, Amir. You mentioned him. This man just received $50 million, 32 guaranteed. Good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Cole Kmet is going to lead the Chicago Bears in receiving touchdowns this year. Draft this person to be your number one tight end. I am telling you why is because first off, while I love DJ Moore as a sleeper at receiver, if you get DJ Moore and Travis Kelce together, whoo, your team's going to be dirty. But I still think that Cole Kmet is going to be the number one target for Justin Fields in the red zone because DJ Moore is a little bit of a smaller receiver, not quite the red zone target that a lot of people have. I'm not saying DJ Moore is not going to have a lot of touchdowns, but I think Cole Kmet, as the big body receiver that he is going, if Justin Fields is not looking to run it, he is going to be looking Cole Kmet's way. And I know what you're saying, Amir, is maybe that's a little too knee-jerk, but Cole Kmet actually led the Chicago Bears last season with 7 touchdown receptions. Pop quiz for you, since you pop quiz me.
Okay.
Who is second on the Bears receiving touchdown leaders with 3?
Second on the team with 3? Jeez.
If you get this, I will be so impressed.
Looking at the state of affairs of the Chicago Bears last year, so Darnell Mooney was hurt.
It was not Darnell Mooney. I'll bail you out of that one.
No, I know. I don't think it was, but I'm just saying. So it wasn't him. They acquired Chase Claypool, but he wasn't as effective for him. Equanimeous St. Brown is a possibility. David Montgomery is a possibility, and maybe Khalil Herbert's a possibility. So I'm gonna go with ESB, Equanimeous St. Brown. Damn. Is it Jimmy Graham? That was my second guess.
Dante Pettis.
Oh, jeez. Dante Pettis. Oh, Lord.
So, my entire point is that while Chicago has done a phenomenal job this offseason, don't get me wrong, I love everything they've done, but I think that they basically only have 2 legitimate receiving weapons still, which is Kmet and DJ Moore. And while DJ Moore, again, like I said, is a good receiver, I don't think he will outdo Kmet in the red zone. That is where the key, production from Kmet is going to happen. So Cole Kmet is going to be a very touchdown dependable fantasy option, but if you draft him to be a tight end number 1, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. He's going to lead the Chicago Bears in touchdowns this year.
I like that assessment. I think very much we saw the Cole Kmet that a lot of us were expecting Cole Kmet to be.
Throw some ice in the furnace there, but keep
going. But I still think it's a little bit risky because, I think a lot of hype is surrounding DJ Moore, just pairing him up with Justin Fields. A lot of people are saying that they're giving him a true number 1 option now, so he doesn't have to run the ball as much. That is Justin Fields, obviously. And then you move Darnell Mooney to now the secondary option, and they got Velus Jones, who they drafted last year as well. They got more of a solidified trio, I'd probably say there. And Chase Claypool, I mean, He was put on the PUP list. So, I mean, I don't know his involvement in the offense. We'll see about that as the season goes along. But just, anyways, you see that there's more production or possibly more production at the receiver group there that will allow DJ Moore to be more successful and then pair him up with the emerging quarterback in Justin Fields there. But yeah, I think just overall what we saw for Cole Kmet and Justin Fields last year, I think that will carry over into this year. So yeah, him lead the team in touchdowns. Like, I mean, it could be a little bit risky with DJ Moore on the roster there, but I like it. I like it. That could very much happen for sure there. So
over under. Okay, I want to put you. I'm landing you on the same boat with me on this hot take.
All right.
Over under 9. Let's go 8.5 touchdowns for Kmet.
I'd probably say under.
Really?
I don't think he'll get the double-digit mark, but I still think it's going to be high enough that he's going to lead the team in receiving touchdowns with 8 or so. I think 8 is where I'm saying he's going to finish.
I'm going to say 10.
Ooh, okay. That'll be interesting to see how that all plays out there for sure. I'm going to get to my hot take here, and I'm actually going to bring up a name that we had brought up a little bit before as well. And we were talking about Derek Carr and how he made Darren Waller sort of a good weapon there in Las Vegas there for the handful of seasons there. But now with his trade to the New York Giants, a lot of people are optimistic for him, but I'm not as optimistic for him. And so he's being drafted as a top 10 tight end. But here's my hot take, Tad. He's going to finish outside the top 10.
What?
I don't think I see it there. It's just like, yeah, I think the physical ability is definitely there. We've seen it there. It's definitely, unmatched. But I think just this offense, we've talked about this before. At least I brought this up before. Is just that this offense is just not geared towards passing the ball as much. And so that's what worries me in this offense is that, yeah, he's a good option. But just if they're not going to throw it enough, is that really warranted for him to finish as a top 10 tight end then? So let's not forget, Chad, also, he missed 14 games over the last 2 seasons.
That's fair.
So it's like, is he sort of, is he going to be able to bounce back from those injuries as well? But just you look at what I brought this up before, but Brian Daboll saw what he had in Daniel Jones, and I think he was a little bit more conservative in the passing offense to allow him to sort of make the easy throws, get those layup passes that we brought up in the podcast before, and sort of just move the ball that way. And then obviously an extension of the running game that used Saquon Barkley a ton. So I think just you look at the offensive weapons that they have. I know they don't have a lot of great options at the wide receiver, Ted. And you know what's so hilarious, Ted, is that I saw this yesterday. We were talking about the Giants wide receiver group, and we're talking about Sterling Shepard and how he's always hurt. He's already put on the PUP list.
Are you kidding me? I actually didn't see that. I swear to God, we're not doing this for the pod. No, what did he do?
I don't remember what it was, but I got the alert on my phone. And I was like, wow, this is just classic Sterling Shepard. Right now. But anyway, so it's like they have these guys, they do get hurt. So I mean, Darren Waller is probably
Sterling Archer is more dependable than this guy.
Yeah, that's not even a joke. That's very true there. But I know that Darren Waller sort of dealt with injuries the past 2 years. And
sorry. Last time I'm going to interrupt you. The first headline that popped up: Sterling Shepard, Wan'Dale Robinson, 6 others to miss the start of camp.
Yeah. I brought up Wan'Dale Robinson as well. But the Sterling Shepard one, we brought up that one before. So I was just like, yeah, he's on the PUP list again. So I do like Darius Slayton. I do like Isaiah Hodgins. They obviously drafted Jalen Hyatt. So some of those guys I like a lot. Darren Waller is probably going to be one of the primary options as well. But I think just the biggest thing is just they're going to spread the ball around a lot. So I think it's not going to be like one main guy that Daniel Jones is going to be looking at. And then you also have to look at last year, Chad. If over the course of the entire season, they had 4 tight ends have targets, you want to guess the total number of targets all 4 tight ends had at the end of the season?
40.
It's more than that. So close to double that. They had 74 targets between 4 tight ends over the course of the entire season.
If you spread it around 4 tight ends, though,
it's still not that great. So if you average it out, it's a little less than 19 targets per tight end. So I mean, that's just telling you
on the season.
Of the season, yeah.
That's like, I want my tight end seeing 19 targets over like 2 games.
Exactly. So it's just like when you look at that, maybe Daniel Jones does, like we talked about with Buffalo, maybe just Daniel Jones doesn't look the tight end's way enough to warrant sort of like, okay, Darren Waller is going to get involved in this offense. He's going to be a sort of high production type of player for you to draft for your fantasy leagues. And I will say that when he had Evan Ingram, he did feed him the ball a little bit more. You had a little bit more of an athletic tight end. So maybe we're going to see that here with Darren Waller. But I think I'm leaning more towards just this conservative passing offense with Brian Dable that is just like, it's going to go to whoever's open, and it may not always be Darren Waller. So it's like, yeah, maybe he's going to have some weeks where he's going to do really well, and he's probably going to have 90 yards and a touchdown with 7 receptions, something like that. But I think we're going to see a lot more of maybe 4 receptions for 40 yards and no touchdowns. And so that's not a guy that I want to be drafting as possibly the 5th or 6th tight end off the board as my possible tight end 1. And like I said, because of all of that, I think there's some other tight ends. We started the episode this way. It's just the top 10 for the tight end position always is different every single year for the most part. So very much I can see where Darren Waller is going to fall out of the top 10. And some other people, like we talked about Juwan Johnson, he may finish in the top 10. We talked about Greg Dulcich, he may finish in the top 10. So it's there's a lot of other tight ends that I think have a little bit more optimism behind them that they could slip into the top 10. And a guy that you think will finish in the top 10, and Darren Waller, he's going to fall out. So I'm very much falling into the fact that Darren Waller is just not going to see enough targets to warrant him finishing in the top 10. And I'll close with this, Tad. The leading player on the team last year in targets, Saquon Barkley. So what does that tell you?
That is brutal. That was a great stat to end on. Shit, you really killed my point with that last stat.
I'm sorry.
Because I actually disagree with you. I to a point where I think that Daniel Jones is so inconsistent that the Giants receiving core is so okay that I think Darren Waller will get enough targets that he will be fantasy relevant. Will he be is he locked for top 10 fantasy? Absolutely not. So again, kind of going back to what we were talking about of it all depends on what are you drafting. Are you drafting Darren Waller to be a bench option, a handcuff option? Then in that case, I think you're going to be fine. But if you're drafting Darren Waller to be oh no, he's my go-to guy at the tight end position, then yeah, I think that's a bust. Absolutely right there. So it's all about expectations because no, I'm not trusting Darren Waller as far as I can throw him, which is about maybe a yard.
Impressive still that you can throw my yard there for sure.
But
yeah, I think
and with the knees.
There you go. So yeah, I still like Darren Waller, but yeah, exactly like I said, it's just expectation versus reality. So it's where are you drafting him and how do you value him at the tight end position for fantasy purposes? Because for me, the offense I think in New York, I think is just going to flow a little bit through Saquon Barkley a little bit more.
And we already talked about Dable. I made this mistake earlier in the episode. Dable does not like utilizing tight ends that much in his offense. So it's just how much can you really trust this guy?
Yeah. So we'll see how it all plays out. But just, I don't have that much faith that he'll finish in the top 10. So we'll see how that definitely plays out.
My guess is he'll break top 10, but it'll be 8, 9, 10. It's going to be barely breaking it.
It could be right at 10. I could see that happen.
Yeah.
But okay. So that will close out our tight end episode. We got through a lot of great players here, sleepers, busts. We obviously talked about how great Travis Kelce is in fantasy leagues. And of course, we ended with our fantasy hot takes. But guys, this is obviously just the one last episode. We have one more to go talking about the fantasy positions. Obviously, we're going to be combining kickers and defenses into one episode. It's going to be fun times. Because it's not a position we address. Obviously, a lot of people put a lot of priority into.
I am so excited to talk about Jake Moody.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that.
I'm not joking. Guys, honest to God, I will, you know what? I'll try to tweet this out. Is the timestamp of when the Niners drafted Jake Moody. You can see Amir shake his head just like that. Yeah. Because I was about, 30 seconds behind him. And it was we did 6 hours worth of draft content.
Something like that. Maybe even more.
That was my favorite moment of the 6 hours was the Jake Moody draft pick.
Yeah, that'll definitely be brought up for sure.
Especially because Ryan Dyrud was on with us when that happened. Yeah, that was fantastic.
That'll be discussed for sure. But I think just the biggest thing that we understood, Tad, as well, is just that if you can land a good defense and you can consistently use them every single week, that makes a huge difference for your fantasy team as far as making the playoffs, possibly not making the playoffs as well. You don't have to worry about streaming defenses. So we'll get into all that in our next episode. But yeah, kickers and defenses in our next episode. We already talked about it. We already did quarterbacks. We already did running backs. And we already did receivers. We just finished out tight ends. So make sure you check out all those previous episodes as well. And guys, the best way you can find out about all the episodes that are happening with us, both in the past as well as in the future, you see the ticker down below. You follow us on all our social media handles. You got us on Twitter, I'm the side 23, Tad the side 90. 94. We got the show handle at The Decide Guys, and of course on Instagram at The Decide Guys as well. That's where we drop all of our episodes, where we drop our position rankings. So, I mean, we'll get tight end rankings out pretty soon as well. And just anything and everything in between. Make sure you interact with us because, like I said, we'll reinforce this every single time we talk about it. We want to help you win your league. So, I mean, interact with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you think about certain tight ends? You know, do you want certain advice on, you know, how you draft, you know, other sleepers that we like, other busts that we don't like, obviously, you know, depending on where your draft position is, like, you know, if you need specific advice for where you're drafting, the type of league that you're in, because like Tad said, he plays in an auction league. That's a little bit different strategy than your standard redraft. So, I mean, it's just like, we'll give you all the advice that we can, but we can't help you unless you reach out to us. So please reach out to us. We'd love to help you out. We'd love to definitely, like I said, win you some titles this year in 2023. Guys, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're listening to your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you're watching all of our videos. And I think big thing too, make sure you subscribe to our parent network, LAFB Network. Without them, there would be no us. They give you great coverage. Obviously, with training camp going on, they had a great interview, Chargers Unleashed, with Rashawn Slater. So, I mean, go check out that video. They were able to get an interview with him. So they got you covered with the Chargers and the Rams. Obviously, Justin Herbert signed a huge deal, so they got you covered with all that news too. So they got you covered with the Chargers and the Rams at the NFL level, and college football is right around the corner as well. Right before the NFL, college football will kick off 1 week before that. So yeah, they got you covered with the Trojans and the Bruins at the college level. But guys, to everybody who's watching us, who's listening, interacting with us, I mean, just anything and everything in between, guys, we really can't thank you enough.
And one thing Amir left out was, don't forget, with college football right around the corner, we are still your go-to draft podcast. We are still paying attention to the 2024 NFL draft. So Caleb Williams, I know Alfred Rowe is very upset with me for saying that I may like Drake May more. So if you like that more, you know, that kind of content coming forward, be sure to keep checking in with us as the season comes along, because we are going to be paying attention. I'm so excited. I finally got a way to make Amir watch college football. It's great. Yeah, so we are going to keep doing that. But more importantly, like, look, guys, we are 5 days away from August, right here from time of recording. So drafts are coming up. Yep. So if you have any questions, don't feel, shy or embarrassed to ask any questions. There's no such thing as dumb question. I tell all my students that. It's not necessarily the truth, but that's what I tell them. But anyway, we are here to help you. So be sure to reach out to us. Like Amir said, all of our socials are right there. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And please stay safe, everyone.